thanks for everybody for convening quickly here. We'll try to move through this quickly. We just wanted to provide an update. This afternoon, as you may have seen, the league has postponed our games on the 21st and the 23rd. So effectively, we are postponed through the Christmas break. That's all we know at this time. I think what we will be doing is seeing how things progress over the course of the next few days. But as far as scheduling and timelines and all the rest of it, we're right now we're postponed games on the 21st, 23rd through the Christmas break. Our facility for any Flames activities, workouts, skates, any of that nature, remains closed. Again, we'll see and get direction on that as we move forward over the course of the next few days. I have with me, as Dalton alluded to, our head physician Ian Auld. Our priority remains right now just monitoring and looking after players, staff, family members, everybody in our group that's been affected. I can say at this particular time, everybody's doing well, and that remains just our number one priority, is just looking after those folks and anybody else affected with this. So with that, I'll turn it over to you for any questions for Dr. Auld or myself. Dalton?
Okay, media, please use the raise your hand function if you have a question. Once called upon, please unmute. Once you've asked your question, I will follow to mute you just so we can get the clearest answer as possible. So we'll start this off with Haley Salvian. Haley, go ahead.
Hi, Brad. I know these are always difficult to answer because it is a fluid situation, but is there a possibility to come to an agreement with the players or the PA to skate over that Christmas break to be ready for the currently scheduled game on the 27th?
Yeah, what we've got, Haley, is we've got a little list of things that we know, and then there's the big to-do list and open items, we're calling it, and that's on the open item list. So right now it's we've got a pretty good 3-on-3 team remaining unaffected by this. So there we've got those guys, then we've got different guys that have gone in at different times, and they'll be coming out at different times. So that's to be determined probably over the next day or so.
Okay, we'll go to Moses Waldo. Moses, go ahead. Oh, Moses, you just got to unmute there first.
No problem. Can you hear me now?
All good, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Dalton. This is for the doctor. Just in terms of the variant that has spread, and we got confirmation from the team that it is the Omicron. Can you tell me, is that the one that's affected the entire team for one? And the second part to that question is, what have you seen from it? Because from what we're hearing is, the good news is the players are vaccinated and the symptoms are almost non-existent. But can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've been in close contact with the provincial lab and the microbiologist there. And so far, it does take some time to sequence each of our samples. Because we did recently travel from the United States, they are sequencing everything. So far, we've had 3 confirmations of Omicron variant. My anticipation is if there's 3, there's more, if not all. But that information should be leaking in over the next 48 to 72 hours. What I have seen, I've been helping manage this problem now for 18 months or so in a hockey-related environment. And we've had cases before, and we've had close contacts before. I've never seen transmission on this level, which I think is completely in keeping with what we're seeing across the world, originating in South Africa. It doesn't require a huge window to move from person to person. Now, to the second part of the question, yes, overwhelmingly so far, our cases have been either asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic. We do have a few people, probably anywhere from 4 to 6, and a lot of cases are in evolution, so things may change, that have had what I would call moderate symptoms. So chills, fevers, fatigue, but quite quick, turning the corner within 36, certainly 48 hours. So overwhelmingly, we've seen mild disease, which is very reassuring for hopefully the world, but certainly us as a group.
Okay, we'll go to Eric Francis. Eric, go ahead.
Hey, Ian, just the lag time. I asked Brad about this the other day, and I wanted to get your thoughts on. There's a lot of talk that this lag time. I mean, you guys had guys tested Saturday morning, played in the game, and then found out after the game that they had actually played the game while positive. And that's not to blame anyone, but is that a problem with the system in Canada versus the system in the US?
Well, we do have options now. So it does depend on the purpose of why we're testing. So in the league this year, it's every 3 days. If anybody's symptomatic, we do have access to rapid PCR tests, which will give us a result within 30 minutes. So if we have used this for people who come in with coughs and colds, we have used those rapid tests to be sure we're not putting anybody in a locker room or on the ice and putting other people at risk. Now, the purpose of the testing on the Saturday before we left was not for symptoms. It was not a routine test. It was a travel-related test. So if we had reason to believe we had cases, we obviously would have done the rapid tests, or we would have tried to fast track the processing on that. But the purpose of that was really for US border control and having that test within 24 hours of crossing the border.
Okay, we'll go to Cami Kepke. Cami, go ahead.
Guys, thanks for doing this. Brad, has the team received any indication from the province that it should expect limited capacity in the Saddledome whenever you should return to the ice?
No, we haven't. We communicate with the province regularly. Ian is in touch with them on a hourly basis, if not more frequent. So, everything from reporting once we do have a case, it goes through the province, it goes through their regular trace protocols. They in turn get in touch with the individuals. So all that process is in effect, but we haven't had any direction on that, and we'll continue to work with them. As we all know, the provincial exemption restriction program required that all people attending games were vaccinated, our team's vaccinated. But in terms of going forward, we haven't had any direction on that.
We'll go to Aaron Vickers. Aaron, go ahead.
Thanks, Dalton. Brad, do you get a sense in talking with the players what the morale is of your team right now, or the mental health state of your team as they go through this?
Yeah, we communicate individually regularly. We had a Zoom call last night. Our group's doing well. Like I said, number one is everybody's, you're concerned about the players, and then we have families involved in this. Although I know everybody talks about the athletes and the staff, which is important. Equally important is family members. So we just want to make sure they're all safe. That's priority one. But they're doing well. You never want to have your season interrupted. We're having a good year. They're eager to get back, and we're looking at this again. Number one, let's keep the medical situation paramount and front of mind. But competitively, they want to get back. We're trying to look at this as a bump in the road. We're going to get through it. We're going to get on the other side of it and get going here. So nobody likes being holed up, but all things considered, the group's is doing well.
Okay, we'll go to Salam Valji. Salam, go ahead.
Hi, Brad. Has the team done any contact tracing or attempted to identify the source of the outbreak at all?
Yeah, as I said earlier, with any of these cases, Salam, they go immediately, when we have a situation within the team, Ian automatically, we do our own trace tracking. Obviously, those are then immediately reported to the province. They do their trace tracking. To sit here and pinpoint exactly the source, I don't want to speak for Ian, but we can't sit here and say, here's the, ground zero or patient zero or where this took place. Obviously, there's, players. The team has been traveling. This is out there. I mean, this is part of our, not just the team, but I think all of our lives right now is this is out there, but we haven't pinpointed exactly where and how it got in.
Okay, Kristen Anderson. Kristen, go ahead.
Has there been any cases among the family members? And obviously you can see my toddler behind me. I'm thinking about the kids with the players with young kids and unvaccinated and whatnot.
You know what, Kristen, just out of privacy for them, I'm not going to get into it. It's safe to say that, we've dealt with some family members. Obviously, league protocols require us to report on players and staff members, which we do on a daily basis in conjunction with the protocol. We're trying to stay away from making anything public, but yeah, we're dealing with it with some family members. But as Ian alluded to, at present, we're doing okay.
Go back to Eric Francis here. Eric, go ahead.
I just wanted to hear from both of you. I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you guys. Any doubt in your mind the league made the right call today, or could they have gone even further?
On postponing those games? Well, yeah, I think it's the right call. Like I said, we had a pretty good 3-on-3 team. They might have been tired after it was all said and done, but there comes a point where you don't have any guys left. So I joked with Daryl, it's probably the only time players wouldn't have bitched about ice time. But so I think it was the only call that could be made.
All right, we'll go back to Moses Waldo. Moses, go ahead.
So, Brad, just in regards to your team, assuming that the travel restrictions might be even stricter, knowing where we're at right now, how is that going to affect your team going forward when you're trying to bring players up from the AHL? Has that been discussed at all between you and the league?
Yeah, you know what, Moses, as I said to Haley's earlier question, there's a big list of open items. I think in these situations, it's natural for all of us to say, well, what about this and what about that? I think you want to keep pictures small, right? Important to be calm, important to be just measured. Let's not create worst case scenarios, but let's prepare for every eventuality. So we are doing that. It's taking up all of our times as you're looking at what scenarios could take place. The good thing is we're all becoming very veteran in the COVID world. So we've had 2020 to fall back on and say, hey, certain things happen. That's not to say that's going to happen here. So just let's stay calm. Let's deal with the actual facts, not necessarily what may or could take place. But we're working through all those potential eventualities, and we'll see where we get to over the course of the coming days with regards to whatever restrictions aren't put in place. But I don't think we need to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Kristen, do you have a follow-up question?
I was just, I guess, trying to put a timeline to when the possibility is that some of your players could return to the ice, and perhaps you answered this in the beginning of your media call, but are you going to wait till everybody's asymptomatic and negative until the isolation protocols have obviously finished? Or, what's I guess when you look at the next couple of weeks, thinking ahead to when you could potentially get back to the practice ice, what's sort of on your mind that way?
Well, I'll let Ian go to, but right now we have players that if the facility's open are able to, participate if they haven't contracted it. You got to go through a certain amount of tests to make sure that you're, even as a negative person, if you're negative, that there could be an incubation period. So the short answer is they would be coming out at different times. Hopefully by the time we're back up and going, that we've got a large majority, if not everybody, back up and going, but they didn't all go in at the same time. They won't all come out at the same time. But Ian's probably got a much more educated answer than that.
Yeah, there's a number of variables that go into this. Number one is, there are some people, and hopefully not in our group, that may have symptoms that go on and on and on, which could keep them out longer. So far, we're not seeing that. But there's various stages of when these individuals will come out of their isolation. And basically, it's the exact same process that anybody else in Alberta would go through. So our contact tracing group that we're working with Alberta Health Services have been fantastic. But we defer to them, and that's the NHL's policy since the beginning. Is we'll give you protocols, but you defer to your local health authorities, and so they're guiding us on, and I'm sort of working with them as well, but on when exactly each individual comes out of their isolation. But the guiding principle on this is we just don't want to spread it to anybody else. So we're following those protocols, and we have a big spreadsheet with a whole bunch of colors and dates, and we're following that. And so it's in evolution at this point.
We'll go back to Haley Salvian. Haley, go ahead.
I know this is probably really low on, you talk about the open items and all the things on your list, Brad, but have there been any discussion with the league at all just about any kind of cap relief if you're in a situation where you need to call more players up than you have the cap space to do?
No, not other than what we know is the protocol. So there's and we've seen it around the league. If you watched any of the games last night, there's players or teams that were playing with short rosters. We just got to the point here where we didn't have any players left. So nothing has been discussed in terms of any revisions or anything like that other than what's currently in place.
I see one more hand up, and that's Salam. Salam, go ahead.
One for each of you. I believe that over half the players from that Saturday game between the Flames and the Bruins are now in protocol. So Brad, has the league reached out about in-game transmission? And Dr. Auld, is there a risk of COVID getting transmitted on the ice during a game?
Well, I'll go first. I mean, we talk to the league hourly. So, they're, as you go through situations on your team, you report them to the league. Every other team does too. So they're well in tune with what's taking place, not only with us, but throughout the league.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, to date with previous variants, the risk of on-field, on-ice transmission has been negligible. Omicron is creating a different landscape on that. And I think the answers are not clear at this point, but 100% the league is, looking and talking to Boston, talking to us, looking at all the situations to try and determine whether, on-ice transmission is going to be an issue for us moving forward. So we don't have a clear answer on that, but yes, we are looking into it.
And I think, Salam, as this thing has been since 2020, you're kind of getting educated in real time, right? So this isn't necessarily something that you can look back and say, well, let's deal with it the way we dealt with it in 87 or 91 or 2010. You're learning as you go. And as Ian has educated me on Omicron in the last week, there's in this particular variant, you're learning it. We're learning a lot more about it as we go here. So, this is not only for us, but a lot of people in the medical community are using our situation to find out exactly or learn a lot about the things we're going through.
I see no further hands. Is there any more questions? Don't see any. Okay, well, sorry, Kristen, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify, Dr. Auld, like if there are so many, I wouldn't call them like mild symptoms and asymptomatic, and like they've already been skating together, why couldn't the players continue to skate together like in a controlled environment like the Saddledome with nobody else around? I'm just unclear, and I'm just wondering.
Well, I think the first issue is that once we realized we were getting transmission in significant cases, so on the Sunday, the league instituted its circuit breaker policy, which is basically means the facility closes, all individuals in our traveling party go into a quarantine environment. So they don't leave home. So there's no chance of spread between our groups. You bring up a good point. If everybody's positive and it's safe for them to skate, could they? Theoretically, yes, but they're in isolation now. So they have to follow the principles of isolation, which are you stay in your home. And so, we're not bringing anybody to the facility. That's not an option for us at this point. I mean, certainly the individuals who have tested negative so far, once our facility is open, I think that's reasonable. But the other cases are in isolation for that 10-day window.